Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is Maseches Megillah Daf Chaf Beis. We are actually on Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines from the bottom. So how many aliyos l'Torah do we have on any given day? It depends on the kedusha of that day. As the Meiri explains, the more kedusha, the more aliyos, the more Torah to derive, to extract the kedusha embedded in that given day. Says the Gemara, B'Rosh Chodashim, B'Chol Shel Moed, we go up one notch, one more than your typical weekday Kriyas HaTorah. Keren Abba, it gets us to 4. Ba'ibinei Ula, Barav, he asked the Shaila Meirav, what do we do on Rosh Chodesh? Parshas Rosh Chodesh, Keitzad Keren Oisa. How do we read the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh? We have a quandary. Tzaves Bnei Yisrael, V'amarta Aleim, es Korbani Lachmi Li'ishai. That Parsha has how many psukim? The Havyon Tmanya Psuki. It consists of 8 psukim. Hechinavid. What do we do? How do we split it between the Olam? What's the issue? Nikri Trei Tlasa Tlasa. Have the first 2 fellows read 3 psukim apiece. Tlasa Tlasa psukim, which is the minimum for any given aliyah. You're left with 2. Pashu Luhu Trei. And that's an issue. That's a problem because you're not meant to stop less than 3 psukim to the end of a parsha. Pashu Luhu Trei, you have 2 left over. You started with 8. He took 3, left with 2. You can't leave over less than 3 psukim in any given parsha. The Gemara soon will explain because of the Yotzim. We're concerned about people leaving the shul at that moment, not realizing that the next fellow will actually finish this parsha and go into the next parsha. They might think that the next oila will only do 2 psukim, which is less than the minimum. We have to account for that scenario. So we never leave over less than 3 psukim at the end of a parsha. So that option doesn't really work. Okay, Nikri Arba. So the first 2 aliyahs will consist of 4 psukim each, and that covers the entire parsha of Tzav B'nei Yisrael. You have 8, you split it evenly. Well now, Pashalu Shiva, you're left with 7 psukim for the next 2 fellows. Why? The parsha of Ubiyam HaShabbos having 2 psukim there. The parsha of Ubarash Shechem having Chamisha gives you 5. How are we going to allocate those psukim? What should we do? Nikri Trei Meha. Let the third Oila do 2 psukim of Ubiyam HaShabbos. V'chad Mahanach, and his third pasuk will spill over into the next parsha Ubarash Shechem. That's also something you're not meant to do. Ein maschilin b'parsha pachas m'shlosh psukim. When you initiate it, when you go into a new parsha, you have to go 3 psukim into that parsha. Why? The concern is very similar to before. Mishum hanichnosen. We're concerned about people arriving late, coming in at that moment. Suppose the Oila did merely 2 psukim in this parsha, and the next aliyah will start at pasuk 3. This fellow arriving right now will say, well, the previous fellow evidently only did 2 psukim. He won't realize that he started at the previous parsha. He'll walk away thinking that you can do less than 3 psukim per aliyah. So, Eid Maschilin b'Parsha Pachas V'Shlesh Psukim. When you enter a new parsha, it's at least 3 psukim. So you can't just do 2. Okay, so Likri Trei Meha, let him do 2 psukim from Ubiyam HaShabbos. With Lasa Mahach and 3 psukim to the next parsha. And you're short. Pasha Lu Trei, you only have 2 psukim left. Rosh Hashanah had 5. 3 was deducted, given to the previous Oila, and only 2 left for the last and final Oila, which is too little for an aliyah. So what do you do on Rosh Chodesh? Amalai, Rabbi responds, you know what? Zulay Shemati. I'll tell you, I never heard the halacha regarding this specific case, but Kayetze B'Shemati, I've heard a similar halacha regarding a similar quandary, which can be applied to our case as well. This is not. Bayim Rishon, Bereshis Vehirakia. This was back in the Ma'amades. We had this in Tanis. Klal Yisrael was split into 24 groups, Mishmaros. A Mishmar consisted of Kehanim, Leviim, who served in the Mikdash, Israelim, who were engaged, for the most part, in tefillah and fasting. Hashem protects Klal Yisrael. The Karbanos are successful. So they would go to the shul, they would fast, they would daven and do a special Kriyas Torah. Reading the first portions of Bereshis, describing Brias Ha'olam to indicate that the world depends on successful Karbanos, which bring about Teshuvah, and we earn our life in that manner. So they used to go through the days. On Sunday they would read Bayam Rishon, this is Sunday, they would read Bereshis, what Hashem created on the first day, V'Yirokia, what happened on the second day, because it wasn't enough psukim in the first section, so you go into the second section. And on the second day, Monday, they would do what Hashem created on the second day, and the third, etc. It was a system, as we discussed back in Maseches Tanis. V'Tani Allah, and the Brisa explains. The Parsha Bereshis, which consists of 5 psukim, that was divided between 2 people, Bishnai. Yehirokia, the next Parsha Be'echad, was covered by 1 Oila, for a total of 3 aliyahs. We had a kash on that. Bishleima Yehirokia Be'echad, I understand how Yehirokia can be allocated to one person. The Tlasa Psuki Havu has 3 psukim, which is perfect for one person. Ela Bereshis B'Shnayim. How can you give Bereshis to 2 people? Chamisha Psuki Havi. It's merely 5 psukim. Too little to divide amongst 2 people who need 3 psukim each. Ela Bereshis B'Shnayim. Yeah, Chamisha Psuki Havi. It's 5 psukim. It's not too much. It's not enough. V'Tanya, we learned a halacha in a brisa. HaKorah b'Torah lo yivches mishloisha psukim. During any given aliyah, he needs to cover at least 3 psukim. It's Keneged Tanach, Kohanim Levim Yisrael, as we learned yesterday. So what do you do now? How do you take 5 and divide it amongst 2 people? V'itmar Allah. We have an explanation on that halacha. Rav Amar Doileg. You repeat a pasuk. First Oila does pasuk 1, 2, and 3. The next fellow does 3, 4, and 5. So you repeat a pasuk. U'shmol amar pasuk. You don't repeat. You split pasuk 3 in half. He does 2 and a half, and he does 2 and a half. Rav Amar Doilik, Rav who maintains you repeat my time. Lo Amar Pasuk. What's wrong with just splitting it into 2? Because he holds it's inappropriate. Kol psuka dele paske Moshe, a pasuk which was not divided in that manner by Moshe Rabbeinu. Way back when, Anan le paskin, we don't just divide things artificially on our own. So we leave the Torah structurally intact. We just repeat to accommodate both. Shmuel Amar paskin. He prefers splitting that pasuk into 2. Really? V'amar Chanina. Kara. Chanina was a Balkair who would teach Chumash to children. And he said as follows: Tsar Godel Hoyli. I invested great effort, Eitzel Rabbi Chanina Gadol, in discussion with Rabbi Chanina Gadol to allow me to go ahead and teach the psukim piecemeal, to divide psukim, to accommodate the kids, to give it them in bite-sized form. Tsar Gadol Hayali Eitzel Rabbi Chanina Gadol V'lo Hitali Lipsik Ela Tenekla Shabbat Beis Ravan. He only allowed it for kids. Hayel V'Islamid Asuyin. They're just trying to learn. A proper Kriyas Torah should be done the way it's meant to be. But when you're teaching kids, you have to give it to them on their level, a couple of words at a time. You can go ahead and divide the psukim. Apparently, it's not proper procedure. Typically, you don't just split psukim. So why does Shmuel recommend? Why does he suggest that we do a pasuk? We split a pasuk to accommodate the aliyahs. Answers the Gemara. Hasam tamamai mishmuz layavsha. Why does Rabbi Chanina allow it for the kids? Because there's no other way. It's your best option. Hachanami layavsha here as well. You're short a pasuk. For lack of better alternative, you split the pasuk. What do you mean? You have another alternative. You can skip. You can repeat. Like Rav, a Shmuel on pasuk. My time, I learn madoilik. What's wrong with repeating? Why go ahead and artificially split a pasuk? Oh, he's concerned about the latecomers and the one that leave early. Lefi says, don't follow Rav's suggestion of repeating psukim. Why? The first Oila does 1, 2, and 3. A fellow leaves the shul at that point with only 2 psukim left of the parsha. He'll think in his mind the next Oila will only do 2 psukim, which is an erroneous conclusion. That's Mishum Hayotzim. Next, So the second Oila goes back, those 3, 4, and 5. A fellow walks into Shul right at that point, thinks the previous Oila must have done just 1 and 2 psukim, which is less than the required psukim for an Aliyah. So we're concerned about the latecomers, about the fellows leaving early. And therefore he says, rather than repeat and create all kinds of erroneous impressions, take that third pasuk and split it in half, for no better alternative. Let's go to Rashi, 5 lines from the top. A fellow walks in right then when the second Oila comes up and starts from 3 to 4 to 5. And they'll say, the previous Oila must have only done 2 psukim. So that's Mishum HaNechnasim. What's Mishum HaYotzim? V'chein HaYotzim. Fellows leaving at that point, after the first Oila did 1, 2, and 3, they'll leave the shul, they'll say, the next one, next Oila, apparently is only doing 2 psukim. So avoid that confusion and just split the third pasuk in half, 2.5 and 2.5. Rav apparently holds that the concern of Gzeira B'Shem Nechnasim doesn't really match up to the inappropriateness of splitting a pasuk into 2. So that's the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Bottom line is, when we're short a pasuk, we have an option. We have 2 options: splitting, repeating. Says Rav, apparently the same thing will be applied by Rosh Chodesh. You're short a pasuk, repeat or split, and soon the Gemara will actually conclude that the halacha says repeat. That's what we do today. We have Marta Lahem, that pasuk, we repeat it. Once for the first fellow, once for the second fellow. This way, we give each person his required amount of psukim. Meisvei. Ask the Gemara Kasha on Rav. You can repeat a pasuk. Raisa says like this: your typical Kriyas HaTorah, Monday and a Thursday, Parsha shel Shisha psukim. You have a parsha consisting of 6 psukim. Kern Oisa B'Shnayim. 2 people will take care of it. 3 and 3. V'shel Chamisha psukim. A parsha with only 5 biyachid. Preferably, only 1 person should read it. That's not enough for 2 people. What happens if Kora Rishon Shleisha, the first Oila, only did 3 psukim? There are only 2 psukim left of the parsha. Koirish Naim Hasheni. The next Oila is Koirish Naim. He parshazu. We'll conclude this parsha, finish the last 2 psukim, and spill into the next parsha as well. Ve'echad mi parsha acheres. You need at least 2 psukim. So 2 and 1. Apparently the Tanakh is not concerned about the latecomer who walks in at that point, says, 1 second. The Oila starting at the second pasuk of that parsha, apparently the previous fellow only did 1 pasuk. He won't realize that he's spilling over from the previous parsha and he had 3. He won't realize that. Tanakh is not concerned about Nechnasim. The Gemara soon will explain, a fellow walking in late knows this place. He won't start speculating and coming to conclusions. I'll ask around if he's really curious. What happened here? And I'll tell him. What do you mean? Because the previous fellow did some from the last parsha, some from this. He had 3. Don't worry. So the Tanakh is not concerned about Nechnasim. The Yeshim, some hold differently. They're concerned about latecomers, and therefore they say Shleisha. In this case, where in the first parsha we had 5 psukim, the first Oila did 3. He left 2 behind. The next Oila comes in and does those 2. He goes 3 psukim into the next parsha as well. When you start a new parsha, it's at least 3 psukim. We're concerned about latecomers who are looking at that point. And if it's less than 3 psukim, they'll say, well, look, the previous fellow only did 2 psukim, 1 pasuk. Right? They'll see the next Oila starting at pasuk 2 or pasuk 3. They'll think that the previous fellow didn't do his full share of 3 psukim. They don't realize that he started in the previous parsha. So you need at least 3 psukim into the next parsha. So they're concerned about the Nichnasim, and Tanakh is not concerned about Nichnasim. But it's clear Tanakh is concerned about the Yotzim. In fact, the Tanakh clearly says the parsha that has 5 psukim should be read by one person. L'chatchila. Why? You shouldn't have one fellow doing 3 psukim which would leave 2 psukim over. Because if a fellow leaves at that point, he'll think in his mind that the next Oila probably is just doing 2 psukim to finish the parsha. So it seems like people leaving early is a concern for him, but not people arriving late, because they'll just ask around to find out what happened. Yeshayim are concerned about latecomers as well. So that's the Bryce. How does it pertain to us? Vim Isa. Now, according to our discussion, Rav holds you can repeat psukim when you're short. Lamanda Amar Doilik Nidlik. This case, Parsha 5 psukim. Reuben read 3 psukim. Now we're stuck. We have 2 psukim left. According to Rav, easy solution. The next Eilish should just repeat to 3, 4, and 5. Pesach Nifsek, Rashi takes out this phrase because we're speaking that he already read 3 psukim. You can't just split it retroactively. He already did 3 psukim. But according to Rav, we have a kasha. Why can't the next fellow just go back a bit? Back up, one more pasuk. Do 3, 4, and 5. Why spill over to the next parsha? Shani Hosam de Efshabachi. There it's different. It's a Monday, it's a Thursday. You can just keep on going. So although typically we just take a snippet of the parsha, but if you need to, just keep on going. It's different than a Rosh Chodesh, etc., where you're bound to that parsha which discusses the Inyanei Hayoma or the Ma'amadas. We can't go past that. So in those cases, for lack of better alternative, we repeat. But over here, there's no need to do that. Amar B'Tanchem, Amar B'Shulman Levi, Halacha Kiyesh Eimrim. We follow Ish Eimrim, who hold that if you need to spill over into the next parsha, you need to do 3 psukim. We're concerned about latecomers who might show up after his aliyah and say, 1 second, he must have only done 1 or 2 psukim. Therefore, you have to do 3 into the next parsha. V'Amar B'Tanchem, Amar B'Shulman Levi, Kashem she'ein maschilin b'parsha, pachas Megillah psukim. Just like we don't do less than 3 psukim to the next parsha, for the concern of the nichnasim that's showing up then. Kach ein meshayrin b'parsha pachas m'shasha psukim. Likewise, when you leave some psukim at the end of a parsha, it must be at a minimum, at least 3 psukim. Why? We're concerned about people leaving at that moment, the yotzim, and therefore we have to leave out at least 3 psukim. This way, they figure at the next Eila will do those 3 psukim. Now, what's the chiddush of Rabbi Tanchem? Pshita, of course, certainly. The Ish Eimrim are concerned about both things. About being maschal a parsha with no less than 3. Likewise, leaving at least 3 psukim behind at the end of the parsha. Hasht. Now, Uma aschalt. If we find that when it comes to beginning a new parsha with less than 3 psukim, the Kamei Kol Tanakama. The Tanakama certainly doesn't have an issue with that. Tanakama says you can just go 1 pasuk into the next parsha. I'm not concerned about latecomers. Still, Machmir Yesh Eimrim. Yesh Eimrim not concerned. They say, no, we're concerned about latecomers. Do at least 3 psukim to the next parsha. So we see the Yesh Eimrim Machmir are more concerned about these things. Certainly, Shir, when it comes to how many psukim to leave over at the end of a parsha, where the concern is because of the yotzim, fellows leaving at that point. The Machmir Tanakama, where even Tanakama is concerned, you see that he recommends that a parsha of 5 psukim should be read by 1 person to avoid leaving over less than 3 psukim at the end of the parsha. Localfile, the Machmir Yesh Eimrim. Don't you think that it's certain that Yesh Eimrim would be Machmir? If in one case Tanakama is Mekel, Yesh Eimrim more Machmir, of course, when the Tanakama himself is Machmir, Yesh Eimrim Machmir as well. So what's the chiddush of Rabbi Tanchem? That even according to Yesh Eimrim, you shouldn't leave over less than 3 psukim at the end of a parsha. It's obvious. Answers the Gemara, no. Mal the Tema, perhaps there would be room to think that nichnas and shchichi, people walking late, unfortunately, it's a common occurrence. So when it comes to starting the next parsha, where the concern is because of the newcomers, then we have to be concerned and accommodate them. But the possibility of just leaving a middle of Kriyas HaTorah, it's not something common. How often does such an emergency happen? To leave the Sefer Torah and just leave? And therefore, perhaps Yesh Eimrim would not be concerned about leaving over less than 3 psukim at the end of a parsha. Who's leaving at that point? Kamashmon, the chiddush is no. We're concerned about that too. Now, Yesh Eimrim are concerned about both, leaving and coming. Tanakama appears to be concerned only regarding people leaving. Don't leave over less than 3 psukim at the end of the parsha. If we're concerned about this fellow running out, who might draw an erroneous conclusion that the next oil is just doing 2 psukim. That is concerned about. But for the nichnasim, doesn't seem to be concerned. In fact, he says, if you're short a pasuk, just go over into the next parsha. 1 pasuk is fine. What do you mean? Somebody walks in right then will say, well, the oil must have only done 1 pasuk. He's not concerned about that. The Tanakama, Maishna, what's the difference? Shir delay. Don't leave over too little at the end of the parsha. Mishum Yaitz, we're concerned about people leaving. Aschuli nami. Gzerev Shema Nechnasen. What about initiation of the next parsha? You're not concerned about the Nechnasen? Amri, the answer is, no, we're not concerned. Man the ayil, whoever comes in late. Shiyuli Shayel, if he's really curious, he can ask around. And they'll tell him, well, the previous fellow actually did more than 1 or 2 psukim. He's coming from the previous parsha. He did his share. Shalchli Rabba, Breda Rava, he sent Rav Yosef, Hilchas Amai. How do we paskin? What's the preferred approach when we're short a pasuk? Skipping or splitting? Shalachli Hilchas Adailig. We skip. We repeat. Repeating or splitting? Repeating. That's the halach. Emtzai Dalgon and the Miller fellow does it. Meaning, Rosh Chodesh would be the second oil. Means not the first or the last. The middle fellow comes back, redoes the pasuk, and proceeds further. Zaklal kol sheyesh by musaf. On Rosh Chodesh, Chol Hamoed, we have a musaf. We add an aliyah. Iboilu. The question is like this: Tanis tzibur b'kama. Kriyas HaTorah on a public fasting. How many aliyahs does it have? What's the shaila? Rosh Chodesh Hamoed Dika Karban Musaf Arba. Rosh Chodesh Chol Hamoed. We actually have an extra carbon, an extra tefillah. That deserves a new aliyah for the Kedushas Hayom. Aval Hachad like a Musaf, like a carbon Musaf loy. Tanis Tzibur doesn't have a carbon Musaf. Doesn't deserve an extra aliyah. Idum, or perhaps you can say Hachanami Katfil Musaf tefillah. True, you don't have a carbon Musaf, but you have an extra tefillah. Rashi says the Aneinu tefillah. Perhaps that's indicative of a higher kedusha, a higher day, and requires another aliyah. Tashma, let's bring a right from the Mishnah. Rosh Chodesh, on these 2 days, Karen Abba, we do 4. Apparently, Ha'tanis Tzibur Gimel. On a fast day, it's only 3. Here's your answer. Eimaresh. Let's take a look at the first part of the Mishnah. B'Sheni, B'Chamishi, B'Shabbos, B'Mincha, Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, and afternoon. Karen Gimel, it's only 3. And we don't mention fast days. So let's make a diuk. Apparently. Ha'tanis Tzibur Abba. So here's your answer. It's 4. So we have conflicting implications. Apparently this mission is not going to really indicate much. We're still back to our Shaila. Tashma, the Rav Ikla LeBavel. Rav visited Bavel. B'Tanis Tzibur. It was a Tanis Tzibur, and he got up, come, Karar B'Sifra. He wanted to be Eilul HaTorah. He got the Aliyah. Pasach, when he started Baruch, he made the first bracha. Asher bracha banu. Chosim, when he concluded his Aliyah V'Loi Baruch, he didn't make a bracha. That's number 1. Number 2, Nafal Kuli Alma An Payo. Everybody did Nefilas Apayim, cover their faces. V'Rav Loi Nafal Apay. Rav didn't do it. And then someone will elaborate on this. What happened with the Nefilas Apayim? In any case, let's go back to the first part. He got an Aliyah. He did a bracha prior, but not following the Aliyah. Michti, let's analyze. Which Aliyah did Rav get? Rav was a Yisrael. Rav be Yisrael Kara. He must have gotten the 3rd Aliyah. My time of Chosim Olei Baruch. So why didn't he make a bracha at the end of his Aliyah? Right, the first and last Oila make the bracha, as we learned yesterday. Oh, Lav Mishum. Apparently, the reason is because the boy L'Mikri Achrina Basrei, there's another Oila behind him. Tanis Tzibur gets 4 Aliyahs. Why? That's not the reason. Rav Bekehani Kara. Oh, the Rav wasn't a Kohen, but he got the first Aliyah of the Kohen. When you're a Talmud Chacham of really high stature, you're allowed to get Kohen. As we find, the Rav Huna, Kari Bekehani, Rav Huna got Kohen. And we assume Rav as well. Bishlam Rav Huna Kari Bekehani. There's no connection. Rav Huna certainly deserved Kohen. The Hafilu Rav Ami Rav Asi. Even Rav Ami Rav Asi, who were Kohanim, very important, Chashav Kohanim, the Kohani Chashivi Ba'ari Star Yisrael, Meikav Kaifulei L'Rav Huna. They were subject to him, they were bottled to him, they were bent to him, they submitted themselves to him, they were machshav him. He was higher than them. And that's the prerequisite for giving kohen to a Talmud Chacham. You have to be the greatest, bigger than all the Kehanim in the area. Ela Rav, how can you apply that to Rav? Hayika Shmuel. We have Shmuel the Kahana, who was a kohen. V'daber alei. And Shmuel, Rashi says, was nohug haya liyos lamala mirav. He was considered higher than Rav. Rav gave him extra kavod. Rashi brings the Gemara Bava Kama. Rav wouldn't walk in before Shmuel. So how could Rav get kohen if he isn't considered higher in stature than all the kohanim in the area? Answers the Gemara. Actually, Rav was higher. Shmuel nami meikav havakayef leila Rav. Shmuel himself was subject to Rav, was batal to Rav, was considered lower in stature than Rav. But the Rav who the avad lay covered. Rav accorded special honor to Shmuel. Rashi brings it was based on the whole story, because Rav had arrived by ship. Shmuel was a doctor. Rav had a stomach ailment. Shmuel tried to help him, and he caused him a lot of distress. Rav was upset. He gave a klala to Shmuel. He should have no children. Later on, he found out that Shmuel was just trying to help him. And as a result of that story, he had extra kavod, extra sensitivity to Shmuel. That was only true in his presence. But if it was not in his presence, Rav wouldn't necessarily give extra kavod to Shmuel, because Rav himself was higher in stature than Shmuel. Therefore, it says the Gemara, he deserved the aliyah of kohen. It appeared that this is the correct pshat. The Rav got kohen. That's why he didn't make the bracha after his aliyah, because he got the first aliyah. The Rav bekahani kara. It seems that Rav did get kohen. Because if he would have gotten Yisrael, the third aliyah, Lefaneo my time of baruch. Why is he making a bracha before his aliyah? That only applies to the first ayla. First ayla makes the bracha before his aliyah, and the last ayla makes the bracha after the aliyah, like we learned yesterday. So why is Rav making a bracha before his aliyah? Oh, so you must say lachat hakana. It was after they changed the practice, and every ayla makes his own separate bracha, as we learned yesterday. If that's the case, why is he only making bracha before his aliyah? He should make one following his aliyah as well. Every aliyah gets two brachas before and after. Isn't that a solid proof? The Rav was not being oila shlishi. Because if so, then just as he made a bracha before, he should make a bracha after. It must be that he was getting kohen. And at that time they study old takana. The first oila makes the bracha before his aliyah. And the last oila, the bracha following his aliyah. And Rav got kohen, so he only made one bracha beforehand. So that isn't necessarily a proof. Perhaps he got shlishi, and it was after they changed the takana. He made a bracha before his aliyah, but not after. What was the reason for this new takana? Concerned about nichnasim and the yotzim. Right? We learned this yesterday. The reason why you make a bracha beforehand is because a guy might show up right then and say, hey, where's the bracha? So you make a bracha before your aliyah. The bracha after the aliyah is because the fellow might leave at that point and say, what's that? Where's the bracha after Kriyas HaTorah? Shani Hechad Yosef Rav. But in Rav's area, Rav's town, things were different. The male Eili, although people perhaps running late, we have the Nichnasim, which necessitates a bracha before every aliyah. But they come in late, but they don't leave early. Meipak lenapki, they don't leave early. Rav trained them well, and therefore he only made a bracha before his aliyah, but not following. Perhaps he got shlishi, and there's going to be another aliyah afterwards, because it's a tanis tzibur, which perhaps requires 4 aliyahs. Maybe. I have no way of proving one way or the other. Maybe that's the case. The reason why he made a bracha before his aliyah was because of the nechnasim, but not afterwards. There were no yotzim concerned there. In any case, it's inconclusive. We're not sure what happened there. Did he get kohen? Did he get shlishi? And therefore we're not sure why he wasn't making bracha afterwards. We're not sure if there was 4 aliyahs or 3. We haven't really concluded. Tashma, let's bring a right to our shaila. What was the shaila? What happens on a Tanas Tzibur? 3 aliyahs? Or perhaps because we have the extra tefillah, that requires another aliyah. Zeh klal. The Brisa says like this. Kol sheyesh b'bitul malach al'am. A weekday. We're holding the tzibur back in shul. Holding them long is going to disrupt their schedule. Hold them back from doing malacha. Could go in Tanas Tzibur, a fast day where you can do malacha. V'tisha b'av, al pi halacha you can do malacha. In that case, we don't inconvenience the crowd. We don't hold them up too long. Kar and Gimel, we suffice with 3 aliyahs. V'she'en ba bitul malacha. Lam. However, on a day where there is no bitul malacha issues, in any case, not really engaged in much business on that day, in which case holding them back in shul wouldn't really be inconveniencing them too significantly. Could go in Rosh Chodashim, v'chol shel moed. Kar and Dal, we add a 4th aliyah. Shema Mino, it's pretty clear from the Brisa. Tanas Tzibur only gets 3 aliyahs. So chol moed, you're not meant to do malacha. In any case, it's not a typical work day. What about Rosh Chodesh? Why is Rosh Chodesh put on this list? You can't do malacha on Rosh Chodesh? So listen to this Rashi. 6 lines from the top. 7 lines from the top. Rosh Chodashim, says Rashi, Ein boi mitu malacha, kol kach. There's not much loss of malacha on that day. She'ena noshim oises malacha ben. Although men do, but women refrain from malacha. Here it is. V'achinami amridim sechas Rosh Hashanah. Gav masuis, mishum bitul malacha shlosh yom, concerned about 2 days Rosh Chodesh and bitul malacha. Rashi over there learns the noshim are going to have to keep away from malacha on Rosh Chodesh. V'shamati, v'pimar azok zal, shnitnu lehem mitzvah. So why did they get this special mitzvah? Why does it say women's mitzvah? B'shvil shaloi pirku nizmein begel, they refused to give their jewelry for the egel. Taisvis, v'animot sasi perik memhei, the Brisa, lezer. Listen to this Brisa. Shama noshim, the women heard about this egel being made. V'loi rotzel litin nizmein, they refused to contribute. V'loi rotzel litin nizmein, their nose rings, their earrings, l'baleim. Allah amr lehem, they tell their husbands, Gesundheit, atam noitzim lasses pesel masecha. You're getting involved in this folly. She'en bei koyach lahatzel. We're not on the program. V'nos nagalish borchus choron shal noshim b'mazeh. Hashem gave him a special mitzvah, a special schar. Shema shamris, Rosh Chodashim, yosim min hanoshim. They get Rosh Chodesh more than the men. They observe Rosh Chodesh more than men do. Lo'elim haba, hein hasidis, l'shchadesh, k'moy Rosh Chodashim, shnemar, t'schadesh, k'neshen araychi. Interesting. They refrain to take part in the egel. What is the egel? What is the concept of avodah zarah? It's hard to relate because they will mevatel the avodah zarah. There's no more desire for this type of thing, but intellectually we could try to understand. The idea is we want to relate to it. We want to connect to the higher being in a tangible way. It's difficult being batal to Hashem who can't relate to, we can't understand. It's something way beyond us. We want to have something tangible, a piece of wood which represents godliness, a stone, an idol, a form, something to hang on to, something to grab onto, that you can relate to it on your level. The Nashim said no part in this. We have direct connection to Hashem. What is Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh is dictated by the new Chodesh, the new moon. The chachas of the moon denotes hashgacha, denotes emunah, Hashem's presence. Look, it's not an autopilot. It's not like the sun. It's not just living on without any change. The moon is a constantly evolving being. You see this chachas. You see the fact that Hashem is running it. It wanes. It grows. You see that constant renewal. Somebody's running the world. We want that directness with Hashem, which is expressed through the Chodesh, through the Levana. The Nashim was zeicha to celebrate Rosh Chodesh more than men, and therefore they refrain from malach. And it seems from the next part in Rashi that even men, to a certain extent, refrain from heavy work. What's going on? It was Rosh Chodesh. The Kamali Chodesh, that was between David and Yohanes, and says tomorrow Rosh Chodesh. The currently letter of Rosh Chodesh Yom HaMasa. The day before Rosh Chodesh was Yom HaMasa, day of work. Well, apparently Rosh Chodesh Lav Yom HaMasa. It's not really a full, proper work day. So heavy work, plowing, working the field, that was they refrained from that. Even men would refrain on Rosh Chodesh. Umoid nami lav b'tu malach la'am. Chol Umoid is pashut. You're not losing work because you're not meant to do malach on that day. Sharei boin with haknesses, yosim esachol. Chol Umoid is meant for spending time in shul, learning and davening. V'she'ein oisim by malacha b'davar avid. An emergency, a davar avid you can do, but otherwise, typically you refrain from malacha. So on these days we can afford adding a little to the tefillah, another aliyah. It's pretty clear from the Brisa. Tanas Tzibur only gets 3 aliyahs. Continues the Gemara. 5 from the top. Amar Rav Ashi, what do you mean about nan leit nan hachi? Take a look at the Mishnah. It doesn't seem like Tanas Tzibur only gets 3. Zaklal kol yom sheyesh ben musaf ve'ena yomtiv kern abba. This is the general rule. A day which features a musaf, but it's not really a yomtiv. Chol Hamoed, Rosh Chodesh, kern abba. You have 4 aliyahs. What's the added zaklal kol yom? What's the Mishnah trying to bring out after having already mentioned Rosh Chodesh and Chol Hamoed? Oh, apparently we're coming to include an additional case. Zaklal asuyeh, ma lav la asuyeh tanas tzibur v'tisha b'av. Apparently we're coming to include a fast day, which gets 4 aliyahs. Continues the Gemara. According to Rav Ashi, we have a problem. Rav Ashi mas nisan mani. According to him, the Mishnah is telling you that Tanas Tzibur gets 4. Who's the author of our Mishnah? We don't find such a shita. Lo Tanakam, v'lo Rabbi Yossi. In the following brisa we have either Tanakam or Rabbi Yossi, and they both hold that on a fast day it's only 3 aliyahs. It's Sanya. Chol Yis b'sheni b'chamishi. This is Tisha B'av. Falls out on a Monday and Thursday, which in any case are days for Kiris HaTorah. Karen Gimel, Mafter Echad, so you have 3 Olim. And the third one is the Mafter as well. Bashlishi B'Ravi, on a Tuesday or Wednesday, where typically you don't have Kiris HaTorah, so we minimize it. Karen Echad, Mafter Echad, you only have 1 Oila with, he does have Torah together. Don't want to burden the crowd, you don't want to add too much. Rabbi Yossi, Omer Lo Olam, Karen Gimel, Mafter Echad, whether it's a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, you always do 3 aliyahs, and the third one is the Mafter. In any case, everybody holds it's just 3, never more. Velakash is zaklal. Okay, so then what then does the Mishnah mean? Zaklal, kol yom sheyesh ben musaf. It's not referring to Tanas Tzibur. Says the Gemara, la'asui Rosh Chodesh Hamoed. Simple. Rosh Chodesh, Chol Hamoed. They get 4 aliyahs. What do you mean? The Mishnah clearly already mentioned those things. Rosh Chodeshim, Umoed Kern Abba. What's the additional zaklal? Simana ba'alma yoev. The Mishnah is trying to highlight the formula behind it. How does this work? You shouldn't contemplate that ordinary yomtiv is like Chol Hamoed, which only gets 4 aliyahs. That's what the Mishnah goes over. Repeats the klal. I want you to know how it works. Ela nekoid haiklala biyatcha. Follow this rule. Called the tafele milsa mechavri, a day which has a mala, an added component of kedusha in it. Tafele gavri yisir, he gets an extra man, an extra aliyah. And therefore, in conclusion, hilkach. But Rosh Chodesh Hamoed dike korban musaf. On these days where you have a korban musaf, so you have that additional component. Kern abba, you get 4 aliyahs. But Yom Tov the asur by siyas malacha. On Yom Tov where you don't do malacha, so there's the extra kedusha chamisha. That garners another aliyah. If you have a kippurim danish kares, that's a more chamer, more kaddish day. Shish, that's an extra aliyah. Shabbos, ika is skila shiva. On Shabbos you have more than kares. It's misa b'dei shemayim, which is considered higher in severity. So you get 7 aliyahs. So bottom line, it seems from the Gemara that on a Tanas Tzibur only have 3 aliyahs, and that's what we do today. 3 aliyahs only. Let's go back to that story with Rav. Ikul of Bavel, came to Bavel, but Tanas Tzibur, Kam Karab Safra, so he did his aliyah. Pasach Baruch, he did a bracha before his aliyah. Chasam Le Baruch, but not a bracha afterwards, as we explained. And then what happened? Nafal Kuli Alma on Pai. Everybody did Nefilas Apayim, they put their head down. Rav Lo Nafal Ampe, but he didn't do Nefilas Apayim. Why not? My timer. Rav Lo Nafal Ape, why didn't he follow the crowd? Ritzba Shabbavanam Hoysa, because he was standing in front of a stone floor. You're not meant to bow on a stone floor. See, there Nefilas Apayim was all the way down, for real. You can't do that on the stone floor if you're outside the Mikdash. V'tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Evan Maskis, lo yititnu ba'artzichem, lo yishtach v'seleo. Oleo yata mishtach ba'artzichem. You're not allowed to bow on stones outside the Mikdash. Aval yata mishtach v'alavonim shel beis HaMikdash. But in the Mikdash, that's fine. Kedula. The Amar Ula tells us, Lo yasra Torah, ela ritzvah shel avonim b'lavad. The concern is only by a stone floor, which was reminiscent of their idol worship. So that's why he wouldn't bow. If that's a concern, my area Rav. Why does this only concern Rav? I feel a kulanami. The whole tzibur shouldn't be bowing on stone floors. If that's what they had in the shul. Kamed de Rav Havoy. There was a stone patch in front of Rav. So he couldn't, but they could. Because in Torah you can bow on a non-stone floor, although in halacha it's brought that the Rabban you shouldn't do it on any floor. That's why on Kippur they put a towel or something. But Min Hadin, he only had a concern that day. Fine, so let him move away, go down to the crowd and bow there, on their section of floor. He figured, he goes there, they'll have to get up for him, he doesn't want to burden them. So he gave up his Nefilas Apayim. Another pshat, Rav Pishut Yodayim V'Raglayim Havavid. Unlike the tzibur who just put their head down, he would actually spread out entirely, hands and feet on the floor, and the concern applies in that case only. The only issur is when you spread out on the floor completely, that you can't do. That's a true mishtach havaya, as we're going to learn soon. So he couldn't do it on the stone floor, but they could, because they weren't doing it to that extent. Okay, so let him just do a minimal Nefilas Apayim, without this whole extension. And says the Gemara, he had a minhag, he didn't want to deviate. He preferred refraining than deviation from his minhag. Unbelievable. Another pshat is, the concern was totally based on another concept. Adam choshev sham. An important person is not allowed to do this in public. It degrades his status if he spreads himself out like that in public. An Adam chashev cannot do this. And Taisus points out, it's only a concern if it's in public. He shouldn't do it unless he knows. Rashi says, he's batuach b'masav, he's confident in his ability, and he can elicit a response from Hashem. Otherwise, he's just throwing himself on the floor, being mavaz himself, which can harm his reputation, his stature, and bring about a degradation, a bezulzul in the eyes of the public, which is more important right now. He has to maintain his dignity. B'tzibur. So unless he knows he's going to be responded to, like by Yeshua ben Nun, so Hashem tells him, Hashem responds to him. Why are you falling down? He had the ability to be responded to by Hashem, but otherwise don't do it. And therefore, Rav refrained. He wasn't sure if he can generate results, and therefore he refused to bow down. So you have three pshatim why he wouldn't bow: the stone floor, which was dafka in front of him, or because only he would spread himself out, which is the concern. Third pshat is Adam chashav shouldn't do it. Tana Rabbanan. What is kida? We find there's lashon in the pasuk. Kida, what is that? Alapine. It's a limited thing. It's just putting your head, covering your head on the floor. Shenamar Vatikoid Bal Sheva Apayim Eretz. Sheva did this in front of David. She just did her head straight down. What is it? Kriya. That is al berkaim, on one's knees. It involves the knees. What is ishtachavaya? That's all out. So pishut yadayim raglayim, totally spread out on the floor. Shnamar havayinova aniva imcha v'achecha v'shtachav s'charetza. This was Yaakov Avinu tells Yosef. You think we're all going to go do ishtachavaya to you? Rashi says the word arza denotes kulay shatuach arza, totally spread out. There's a story involving Levi. Levi achvi kida kamei de Rebbe. This kida is a complicated procedure. And Levi had the ability to do it. He presented this kida, acrobatic feat, in front of Rebbe. And Rashi says it's quite dangerous because you don't really have much to support yourself on. Imagine you're just standing upright and then your head is just going down until you hit the floor. And then when you get up, you don't have much to support yourself on. It's just your fingers, and you can easily strain your back, and that's what happened. He did it in front of Rebbe. Why in front of Rebbe? I think the Mepharshim explained Rebbe was going through a lot of Yisurim for Klal Yisrael, as more Bava Metzia discusses, and they said try to liven him up a bit. So he performed in front of Rebbe V'itla, and he became limp. He was injured. Asks the Gemara, that's why he was injured? V'haka garmali? This is the reason. V'amar belezer la'olam al yatich adam devarim klapim mala. A person should always be careful not to toss, so to speak, words upwards to Hashem. Be careful the way you speak to Hashem. Hashem knows better. You have to daven, but choose your words carefully and respectfully. Shari Adam Gadol. We know of a great man, Levi. Hitiach dvarim klapim mala did just that. In the time of Tzara, Rashi says, we had this in Maseches Tanis. They were experiencing great drought, and he said, "Alisa la'amarim ve'enat mashgiach al banecha." You're up there, you're not be mashgiach on us. So it was a bit too harsh. Ve'itla, and he became limp. He was injured because of that. Umana, who's this person, Levi? So we see that was the reason, not the kida that he performed. Answers the Gemara. Both are true. Ha v'ha garmali. Both together caused this result. Rashi says in the bottom line, because he spoke a bit harshly to Hashem, that made him vulnerable. So that when he was experiencing this shasas hakana, he was in this precarious, acrobatic position, he got injured. The Gemara speaks about a person refraining from placing himself in a makam sakana, walking near a kir nati, a leaning wall, etc., because it's maskir navinesu shaladam. It arouses the prosecutors, the makatrigim lamal, say, 1 second, this fellow right now needs a nes. Is he deserving of a nes? So one places himself in a precarious situation, a makam sakana. Chas v'shalom, he could be vulnerable due to his misdeeds. Here as well, the sakana triggered the einish, which was really as a result of the yatiach dvarim klapi mal. Amar b'chir bar Abin, back to the topic of the adam chashav, was meant to maintain his dignity in public. Chazinu l'Abai v'Rava, I noticed that Abai v'Rava came up with a solution. The matzli atzlui, they would just lean a bit on the side when they didn't feel as apayim. It wasn't straight down, not meant to do that, but a bit sideways. This avoided that concern of lack of dignity, and therefore they did it. Okay, what did we learn today? We had a shaila regarding a case where you're coming up short. You're a pasuk short, what do? Whether it's Rosh Chodesh or the Ma'amodes. Rav says, you repeat the pasuk. Shmuel says you split. V'ilchasa, you repeat. By Tanas Tzibur, we only have 3 aliyahs. And generally the way it works is the more the Kedusha, the more the aliyahs. A typical weekday, 3 aliyahs. Rosh Chodesh and Moed 4, Yom Tov 5, Yom Kippur 6, and Shabbos 7. The reason why Rav didn't do Nefilas Apayim, we have 1 or 3 terutzim. He had some stone in front of him. He didn't want to walk over to the crowd to burden them. It was only a concern for Rav because he did a foolish tachavaya. That's the second teretz. The third teretz is Adam Chashav is different. We learned about Kida, Kriya, and Tachavaya, 3 different forms of bowing down. We had a story with Levi. One is meant to be careful, and his tefillah is to Hashem. Much hatzlacha to you and b'suros tovos for the entire Klal Yisrael.